My name is Clare Thibodeaux. I'm with a nonprofit called Cures Within Reach. For those of you who aren't familiar with what we do, Cures Within Reach is the leading global nonprofit that supports repurposing research in order to get patients or treatments to patients more quickly. When we talk about repurposing research, we're talking about testing FDA-approved drugs, devices, and nutraceutical compounds, testing them to see if they would be safe and effective in treating unsolved diseases out there. We're a disease-agnostic organization, so we don't focus on any one particular set of diseases. They can be rare disease or even not rare diseases. Our main focus is making that patient impact. And to date, we've had a role in bringing 13 repurposed therapies into the clinic, which we're very proud of. So we have three main goals as an organization. The first is to connect researchers with the funding they need to get these projects done. The second is to build community and collaboration among all stakeholders within the repurposing committee. That includes patient advocates, academics, clinicians, pharma, biotech. We want to bring everybody to the table in the conversation to see how we can make this happen. And the third is that we help develop new economic models to fund this sort of research. So before I begin, I just want to kind of throw out a question for you all to think about. When I say the word innovation in terms of healthcare or drug development, what do you think of? Do you think of a cutting-edge new diagnostic technique, or maybe the latest scientific discovery, or maybe even a promising new drug that's just come to market? And those are all very innovative things. What people maybe don't think of as much are drugs that are already approved and being used in the clinic. They think, okay, once it's been discovered and once it's been approved and marketed, and that's sort of when people stop thinking about it. But we disagree. We feel that innovation is anything that drives treatments to patients quickly and affordably. And that's exactly what repurposing does by teaching old drugs new tricks. And I'm sure I don't need to tell you all of that. I'm sure everybody in this room knows of that. So some rare disease facts. Again, this is not unknown to people in the room. I won't walk through all the numbers for you. I think we've heard them earlier today. But the bottom line here is that there are a lot of rare disease patients who are out there waiting for treatments. And many of them don't have a long time to wait. On the other hand, we have thousands of approved drugs that we know so much about. We know safety profiles, we know side effects, we know delivery, dose, all of that information. So there may already be a lot of treatments out there for all of these unsolved rare diseases. We just have to do the research to find them. So let me give you a success story to illustrate how repurposing research can be used. This is a story that comes out of the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia by one of our funded researchers, Dr. David Tichy. But the real star of this story is Nicole. You see a picture of her there, and she looks happy, she looks healthy, like a normal teenager, but unfortunately this wasn't always the case for Nicole. Nicole has a condition called autoimmune lymphoproliferative syndrome. It's a rare autoimmune disease, and in this disease, white blood cells just continue to grow. They block out other types of blood cells, and they gather and collect in places like the lymph nodes in the spleen, which become enlarged. Patients with this condition, they are prone to increased infections, and often they'll end up in the hospital to treat these infections. They have other blood conditions such as anemia, and they're also susceptible to developing lymphomas later in life. So they have a lot going on. And then there's a subset of these, so a subset of a rare disease, a subset of patients who don't respond to things such as steroid treatment, and they don't have very many other options. And unfortunately, this can often be fatal by teenage years. So what Dr. Tichy did was he took a drug called sirolimus, which is a immune suppressive drug. It's typically used in kidney transplants. It's been around for a little while. And he tested it in these patients, these ALPS patients who don't respond to other treatments. And what he found was really remarkable. Nearly all of the patients enrolled in this study had an immediate and lasting response. They either had a total remission or a partial remission. And this eventually led to a change in clinical practice. Now they knew, okay, here's this repurposed drug that we can give to these patients, keeps them out of the hospital, keeps them on track, and it's easily available. So now we see Nicole as she is, where she's thriving, she's back in school. She wasn't able to go to school because she was sick so much. Her parents had to quit their jobs because they had to stay home and take care of her. Now they're back at work. And Nicole is back to leading an almost normal life. But the sirolimus story doesn't end there. Dr. Tichy decided to try it in 5 other rare autoimmune diseases, and again, he found that it's effective in treating these patients. So sirolimus lives on and will continue to help other rare disease patients as we go forward. So what we found in our work is that it's not a lack of ideas that's keeping us from doing more repurposing research. There are plenty of clinicians and researchers like Dr. Tichy who have these fantastic ideas. What we found to be the problem instead is a lack of adequate financial support to make these repurposing research projects a reality. And so one of the things that we've been working on with our partners who are based in England, these partners are the charity Find a Cure, Costello Medical Consulting Company, and an organization called Numbers for Good, which supports impact investing. We have been working with them to develop a social impact bond, or a SIB, that will help support this kind of repurposing research. The idea behind this is that it will pay for success. It's a pay-for-success model where investors will be paid back through any kind of healthcare savings that have been realized through repurposing. And just from the ALP story alone, we have some anecdotal evidence there that shows that healthcare costs went from $100,000 a year down to $5,000 a year just by using this repurposed therapy. So it is possible. And like I said, we're working on a pilot. Our partners have put together some economic models to see if this will be a feasibility. Again, these are just models, so I want to put the caveat out there. These are estimates based on assumptions that we put in, but we do believe it's illustrative of the success here. I'm not going to walk through all the numbers, but if you look at the last column, you can see that there is actually a return on investment here. After we've paid the cost of the research, after we've paid the cost of maintaining the SIB, there is something there, modest, but something there that we believe will be of interest to impact investors who are interested in making a social good. But the idea is that we still need more economic incentives in order to make sure that we continue on with increased repurposing research. So I just want to let you all know that in putting together the SIB model, we just opened our rare disease repurposing open call. So this is a call where we're asking everybody in the rare disease community, whether it's patient advocates like yourself, researchers, clinicians, whoever's involved in rare diseases, if you have ideas for repurposing research ideas, we want you to tell us. We want to bring more attention to this research. We want to give it more visibility. We want to use it as a way to increase more interest in terms of funding and policy changes to help make this happen. And we want to hear from you. The idea, too, is that if we do get a social impact bond going, either here, or either in England, or if we figure out a way to do this here in the United States or other countries, we can use those projects as a pipeline. And I will say, even though these things might be happening overseas in England or in other parts of the world, if we can find these repurposed treatments, they're available for everybody around the world, not just people in those countries. So it's a very important initiative, and we hope that you get involved with us there. And I just want to have a quick note about future innovations that could happen. Drug repurposing is going to really become more and more important as we go forward. Scientists right now are gathering a great amount of information, especially in rare diseases when it comes to genetic profiles and protein profiles, so that we can really get a good signature of the disease, a molecular signature. On the other hand, we have all of these drugs that we know so much about, and we can easily create drug signatures as well. And when you combine that with the power of bioinformatics and machine-based learning, a lot of the great computing technology and power that we have available to us now, we can put that together in sort of an in silico screening to identify potential repurposed therapies to get to these desired therapeutic outcomes. And the more that we can do this in silico beforehand, the more we're going to have more cost-effective, more efficient methods for discovering repurposed therapies and potential therapies, the more we'll be able to leverage that and get those to patients even more quickly. So again, that's why it's increasingly important that we have policies such as the Orphan Drug Act, such as the Open Act, that are going to help support these sorts of repurposing efforts and others. So I just want to thank you for your time today, and thank you all for your work, and I will turn it back over to Caroline.